Greetings, I'm Reverend John O'Toole. I wish you're having a fantastic day, because I know I am. Now before I start, someone made me a suggestion. I would like to tell you that this video is for entertainment purposes, and I take absolutely no responsibility for people doing foolish things. So, all this video is about information, and it's up to you on what you're going to do with it. Simple as that. So here we are on this beautiful chilly day, and I wish to talk to you about computer storage. Now if you have, either you have a Mac or you have a PC, or a PC laptop or a Mac laptop, it doesn't matter. You always have to be thinking about storage. Anything can happen. Old school people remember Murphy's Law. I really got to get a poster because I don't remember every one of them. But I know one of them is that if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. And it's going to happen when you least expect it. And a lot of people, not everybody, because there's people out there that have never experienced. Like, for example, one of my daughters. One daughter has, the other daughter hasn't. The one daughter that has knows better to back up her stuff. The other daughter says it'll never happen to me. I'm not going to worry about it. I'll get around to it later. I'm too busy. And then one day they power up their computer and everything is gone. And no matter who you are or how experienced you are, it happens to everybody. Whether it's your phone, hey, you drop your phone into a puddle and everything is on that phone and it's not backed up anywhere. You lose all your contacts, you lose your calendar, you lose your notepad, you lose everything. So, granted, there's more technologies out there now that, you bring your phone up to a cloud, but it's good to have a copy somewhere you know it's safe. So, you should be backing up your information. If you have any desire to keep track of it, you should have it backed up someplace. Now, some people have everything up on a cloud, but that doesn't mean that clouds can't crash. They have redundancies. They say, hey, we'll never do it, but things happen. Not only does things happen, is that if they're on someone else's computer, just how safe and secure is that information? If your computer is, you have all your information on your hard drive and it doesn't leave the place, and you go off to dinner and come back and your house is burned down and your computer's crashed, and you didn't have a safe copy someplace, you lose all your data. So there's all these things you have to think about. You have a freezer full of food, you lose your power, you lose your freezer full of food. It happens. Things happen. That's what Murphy's Law is all about. But today we're not talking about your refrigerator. Today we're talking about your computer. So there are several types of, most all your data on your computer, whatever it's a Mac or a PC, it's going to be stored on a hard drive or it's up on a cloud. But we're not talking about clouds today, even though it's a beautiful day and it's got beautiful clouds and a little bit of smog from the West Coast. But we are talking about hard drive storage on your computer. Now, for years and years and years and years, ever since computers first got a hard drive, back in the old days, if you can remember that long ago, things were stored on floppies. And I don't have any floppies handy to show you one. First they were on floppy disks, and they were floppy. You could wiggle them around in floppies. And then they switched, those were the 5 1/4 and the 8-inch ones that were just basically a record that was stuck in a plastic sleeve, and they were floppy. That's why they called them floppy disks. You could use them as a fan. And then they came out with the 3.5s that were in a hard plastic case. You still had that floppy inside it. And that was your storage. If you wanted to use your computer, you had to put a floppy in to have your program running. And you might have to have a second floppy drive to have your storage on it. And yeah, if you didn't have two drives on your computer, you had to keep swapping your disks back and forth with the very little memory that was on that computer. Now we have, 128 gigabytes of space on some computers. Some are more than that, but back in the old day, you didn't have much. So, if we started going to hard drives, we had basically two types of hard drives. We had the desk-type hard drive, which kind of looks like this, and we had the one for laptops, which looks like these. And you can see they've got a place for the motor to spin that turns a disk, and inside this case is a disk. If I take this thing and throw it across the room and it hits a hard surface, it's a good chance that you might corrupt some data on this. You may not. You could keep trying it until you get it to do it. I just assume skip that step. So these were what we call our hard drives. And the hard drives would crash. It was more common on earlier versions of software that they would not auto park. And what they have is basically they got these heads that float back and forth on these platters, which are like record players, and they would stop maybe randomly in a place where there's data, and if the computer were to shut off by accident or on purposely by accident, you might crash your software on your hard drive. Back in the day, I used to work on a Unix-based system, Unix, an old PC or Mac. And that would happen a lot. People would say, oh, just turn it off and turn it back on again, like they do a PC, and that would crash the computer. And we'd have to go back in and reinstall software, which was a very long process. But these days what they do is they're usually pretty good about cycling down in a place that it's safe. But because they are a mechanical device, they do have a chance of failure. And not only do they have a chance of failure, they still have a pretty high chance of failure. Now you can get really cheap drives and you can get really expensive drives. And if you've got a large storage system, maybe like 10, 12 terabytes of data on each drive, you're going to have a pretty extensive drive. The best thing to know about these kind of systems that uses hard drives is you don't turn them off. It was the same suggestion back in the day with the Unix-based systems as it is with desktop computers. Don't turn off your computers unless you really have to, like for a power failure or something, and you've got to cycle your computer down. You've got a UPS on, it's automatic. You've got to send a shutdown message to the computer, which is going to take care of parking the hard drives and shutting everything down. But generally speaking, these type of desktops, you keep them running at all times. You can turn off your monitor, which is probably what's going to use most of your power, but you leave your desktops running. And that's going to increase your reliability of these things. The other thing, of course, is you don't buy cheap. You don't go on to the websites, of so many of them out there, and click on lowest price as a list, and you'll see what's the lowest price. This particular drive is a 1 terabyte drive. It's a Western Digital, which is a very good brand drive. But there are drives out there that have no name, and they might even be a brand name that uses a no-name brand too. And that's up to you. You could buy cheap or you can buy expensive. You can buy something. It's your pocketbook. Do whatever you want. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I say, John, you told me the wrong thing and it failed. Or, I listened to what you said and it failed. Make your own informed decision. Look around, read the reviews. WD is a good brand. Seagate's a good brand. There's certainly other ones, Samsung's, such. So these are your desktop computers. They can fail. Now this is actually a fairly old drive, and so it's the same thing now with the laptop. Now the laptop drives, they're more designed to be turned off and turned on because the laptop will overheat if you leave it up and running too long. There's a lot of components inside it that warm up, particularly memory and the CPUs and so forth. They produce a lot of heat, and unless you have your laptop properly ventilated, it may overheat and shut down anyways. And it's always pulling in air and blowing air out if you have a laptop that has a fan on it, so you can bring in a lot of dust. So laptop computers are really not designed. As you know, the battery doesn't last very long, and once it over memorizes itself, it lasts less, and then you're always plugging it in wherever you go. So laptops are generally shut down when you're done, or you have it in the sleep mode with a mechanical drive. Now most people complain about when they boot up their computers, it's slow boot up times. So I have a fix for you. If you have a computer that takes, a minute or 2 minutes or 3 or 5, depending on your software versions, if it takes a little while to boot up, chances are you have a mechanical drive in it. Now, the next step, the new technology now, is to go with what is called an SSD, a solid state device. Solid state device is basically it's just memory, and it's powered by the computer's power, and it will store what you require. So here we have, for example, this is a 1 terabyte drive. Okay, this is AdLink, which is a pretty good brand, and this is a 1 terabyte drive. Mechanical drive, 5 1/4, 3 1/2, solid state drive. This is so much more reliable than this, and it's fast. Not all of these solid state drives are as fast as others. This drive is fairly fast, but there are ones that are slower, and you have to read, the information that comes with it to determine what it is. This one's an ADATA. This one's slower than this one. But back in the day, this was a really good drive to get for reliability. So if you're going to upgrade your computer, say your desktop, for example, and you're going to replace this drive. I'm going to drop this drive in this video. Your guys are just waiting for it. The only reason why you're watching is to see me drop the heavy drive. If you're going to replace this drive in your computer with this drive that's more reliable and far faster than this drive will ever be, you need an adapter that's going to give you the mount. I don't have an adapter in. I'll put a picture up as an adapter for it. That this mounts in it, and then it slides into wherever this drive was in your computer. Uses the same cables. The end, I don't know if you can see the ends, they are the same. So, for a SATA cable. Now, if you have an ancient computer that uses an IDE drive, you're going to have to look for those types of of SSDs to work in those computers. Now they are around, and there might be some reasons why you still have a very old computer such as that. But eventually, it's going to die on you. And I hope you have your software backed up. So, the same thing applies to this mechanical drive that's for a laptop. You can install this in a desktop. Now, obviously, you can't install this drive in your laptop. You can get an external housing and plug it in, and then plug that into an outlet. This one also needs power to run, where this one here can run off of the power provided by your thing. So you can get an external drive that you can install your drives in and use it for transferring data or backing up data. So there are mounts, and I'll show you a picture because I can't put my fingers on it. The Fairy has, of course, hidden it from my direct view, and of an external mount in which you can, an external enclosure that you can use this drive outside of your computer or your laptop, and you could travel with it. And you could have storage of, say, 6 terabytes or 12 terabytes on the road with you as you travel. If you have stuff that you want to carry with you to go off to another computer remotely. So, what we're talking about today is a couple of things. Well, one thing you want to do is you want to back up your software. Now, I use, and this is not an endorsement, it's not an unpaid endorsement, it's just by personal choice, is that I use a software package called Acronis. Now, it's, your choice. You can look up, you can Google or do a search for cloning software and backup software, and a list will come up, and you can choose what you wish to use. It's a good idea to have a software program that's backing up your computer. So you're either doing it on site at your computer or on the internet to a remote server. There's bunches of those out there. Carbonite I started with for the longest time. They're pretty good. Good customer service. There's a number of them out there that will, Acronis also has that. I have a lot of videos. Obviously, I produce a lot of video, and I have lots of video on in storage on my drives. And for me to back that up to a cloud is a little timely because I don't have super fast internet like so many people do now. Turn that frown upside down. So, I store everything on my computers, and I've had some issues when I haven't been able to pull off that information. Now, the way that I'm backing myself up with that is that I do a clone of my C drive. Now, the C drive in the computer on a PC is generally your main computer. Now, the A drive was your floppy drive back in the day. Back in the time machine and go back in the day. The A drive and the B drive were your two floppy drives. You either had one or you had two, depending on your system. The C drive is your hard drive, your first hard drive. And the D drive is your CD-ROM or your DVD-ROM, depending on which you have. Or your Blu-ray, because you can have a Blu-ray drive now on your computer. So that's how it usually works. That those are the A, B. You could move everything up and get rid of your A and B and assign the A drives being your C. But it's kind of like the common thing that everybody uses a C drive. So you could set your computer up any way you wish. But when you're talking to people and someone says, well, what's on your C drive? And then you say, well, my C drive is my A drive. And you're going to just totally confuse people. So your C drive is where all your software is. If you have a PC and you're running Windows, that's where your Windows software is going to be. If you're on a Mac, you know, it's going to have the primary drive as being where all the information is on for the programs. And then your storage drive, if you have another drive, it's going to be for all your data, like your videos and your pictures and your documents and so forth, if that's what you wish to do. So it's a good idea to back up all that information periodically. Now that's what running a backup software program will do, is it'll do a main backup of the whole drive, and then it might do incrementals through the week as your information changes, and then do another full backup on the first day of the next week, or whatever weekday you choose, and so forth as it goes. So if you had to restore, you could restore all the data that you've had working on it. So that's in a perfect world. And if you're doing that to a cloud, you know, the first time you do the backup, it's going to do a whole thing of your system, and then it's going to do incremental backups as you change files. It's going to back up those files to the net. So in the long run, it does work better. It's just, for me, cost-wise, to back up as much video as I have on my computer, I choose to do it remotely. I mean, redoing it in the house. It does have a problem. If I lose the house, I lose all my data. But that's just a chance I take. I also have multiple computers in the house, and I have multiple copies on the other computers of, say, the video that I have, and my pictures and some of my documents. So I try to be this weird, obsessive backup. Now, I did have an incident a little while ago where when I went to restore from the backup, the information was unattainable, which made me become a whole lot more paranoid. And that's why I'm telling you this, because even if you think you're in a perfect world of how you're doing your backups, things still happen. So remember that if you have, like, for example, my system is about 2.1 terabytes of data. So if you have a crash and you've got to restore from part of that is Windows, but that's very, very small part. It's only about 60 gigabytes for Windows. So all that stuff's going to come back at you over the internet. And if you don't have a super fast speed, it might take you a few weeks to bring all that information back onto your computer. Now it's compressed, so it's not at the full size, and you know they have ways of making it work. But I'm just, you know, if you're looking for something instantaneously, you might have some challenges with that restore. So what I do to back up my backup is that I make a clone of the drive. And as a matter of fact, that's what this drive here is for, this ADATA 1 terabyte. I make a clone of the software package of my C drive. Now my C drive is less than a terabyte in storage. Actually, I think right now it's around a half a terabyte of data on the disk drive, and I will clone that drive onto this drive as my backup. Now, if I have a crash, I can at least go back to this drive. I actually just had an issue that I lost my C drive information during I think it was a power spike, and or something. I don't actually really understand what really caused the loss of information, but it did get lost, and I had to restore. So I had this one here that was about a month and a half old, and I restored from this, and I was back up and running with all my software packages, because, you know, everything is downloaded. Nobody has physical disks anymore for software packages. Everything is all downloaded from the internet. So that was how I got back up and running, and I just had to make up the differences on things that I needed to get to. So I try to make copies of things of my data and store it in different places so that I can have a backup. And there's things that you should think about. Even in your phone, you can do a backup of your phone using this software and have it on something, even if you just have it on a thumb drive, because you can get thumb drives that are fairly sizable, 512s, which is a half a terabyte, and then store your data onto that and put it into a drawer for it to be safe. But the same thing flies. Don't buy cheap when it comes to thumb drives, because believe it or not, I can't fathom the existence of this, but there are people out there that will mislead you. They'll sell you a half a terabyte thumb drive for you, and it will actually only be a 32-bit drive, and they just change the label on it, and you never know. Can you believe such things could happen out there? But they'll charge you the price it was for that. So don't buy, SanDisk is a good brand out there. It's been around for ages. It's fairly reliable. Read things. Read your reviews, read your information, maybe Google their site before you, and look at their actual website for their corporation. And if you look at it, it looks kind of fuzzy, like they don't really give you a clear location of where they actually are from. You might just, and that goes for any site, really. So that is what we're going to do, is I'm going to show you how to, So I showed you these drives, solid state drive. Now this one's here, you could take one of these and put it into an enclosure. I have a number of these. These are closures for the solid state drives. And the drive can go inside the box. And this drive here I bought, I thought I was getting a deal, such an amazing deal. A SanDisk SSD, 120 gigabytes. It was $65 on eBay. What a bargain! I could believe it. I could get this is 120 gigabytes. I should have paid $10 for this. They never come down to $10. I basically use this to move large files back and forth from one location to another. But you can take, which is what I do, is that I will take this one here and I'll install this into here, and then I will clone my C drive with it. Now you can also use this as a storage drive and with your laptop, and have external storage on your laptop. If you go someplace to take a class, for example, and they tell you to bring something, you can buy pre-sealed terabyte drives, but you don't actually know what's inside this box until you actually get it and look, and take it apart, which you may not be able to take apart. This way you have an enclosure that's like $10 that you can buy, and you buy your own drive, and you know what kind of drive it is and what size it is, and you can install it in here and keep your data. And then if you want to put a different drive in, you just take this one out, you take another one, you put it in here, and you're all set to go. So if you have a laptop or a computer that's slow and you feel comfortable with the expertise around it, you could buy yourself a new SSD for it. You could get a terabyte. You might have a laptop drive in there, and it might be only like say a 512, and it's kind of full because you do a lot of pictures. And you say, well, now I got to carry one of these with it because the laptop is too small. Well, you could get yourself a 1 terabyte drive and replace the mechanical drive in your laptop with a solid state drive, you can clone your drive in your laptop to a solid state drive and just swap the drives. And then it'll boot up and it'll work. Now, most of the times it works. Sometimes it doesn't work. So if you don't feel 100% confident about playing with computers, taking them apart, putting them back together again, whether they're Macs or they're PCs, don't do it. Easy. What I'm giving you is the knowledge, so that when you go into Staples or some other computer shop, you say, I want to upgrade my laptop or my computer to a solid state drive, you won't be saying things like, well, I got this thing here that I guess it's a computer and I want to do something to make it go faster, so I want to put, I want to put the doohickey thingy into the big thingy, and the big thingy will then run faster, and I just want you to do it for me. And they'll like look at you and say, okay, now let's see, what can I charge this guy for it, because he doesn't know what he's talking about. But if you have the know-how of what's going on, you could say, well, this is what I want to go in. I want it to be a Samsung 2 terabyte drive SSD, and I would like you to clone what I have and put it in there, and we'll be good to go. And they'll look at you like, you sure you want to spend the money on a Samsung drive? And they're going to say, yes, I do. It's like, well, I could get you a whole lot cheaper drive. Say, no. Let's just go. I'll tell you what I'll do. I will go somewhere else with it. Well, wait a minute now, So, you have the smarts to talk to your mechanic or your computer guy or the butcher. Then you get treated a whole lot differently than if you have no knowledge at all. Knowledge is power. Sometimes you hear noises and you just have no idea what they're from. Turn the air conditioner up so that won't be turning on. Turn down the air purifier. It should be pretty quiet in here, except for the occasional cat. But I think they're worn out from chasing things in the morning. So there you go. This is an information video to have some fun with, because I'm always looking like a fool. So now the other drive that I haven't shown you yet is called an M2 SSD drive. And that is in newer computers that have been around for a couple of years. The new boards, the new motherboards, which is the main central processing unit. I guess I haven't opened this one yet. So this is, you can read it. Now this is, to me, in my personal opinion, is the Cadillac or the Lexus of SSDs. They're the top of the line, and it's what most other companies that make SSDs want you to believe, that theirs is better than the Samsung. They're not endorsing my video. They're not giving me a free SSD, which would be wonderful, but they're not. So remember the day. Now these boxes are basically the same. And you got this box and you've got this box, but this white box is just packaging. You have, well, I put the other one in the box, didn't I? So here is the SSD, the 3 1/4, and it's a little bit bigger now, isn't it? Packaging. The things we throw away. So this is an M2 SSD. And I'll try to put it on here with the reading writing up, and that is this little thing. It's about the size of a stick of gum. And this is the two differences. Now, this is 1 terabyte. This is 1 terabyte. This is 1 terabyte of a 2.5 for a laptop. And this is 1 terabyte for a desktop computer. Now, in order to use this in your desktop computer, you're going to need a motherboard that supports it. Now, there are some cards that you can mount this on and put it into your computer, but it may not work as a boot drive. It may only work as a storage drive. So this will go into your computer. Now, you can't, it has a special connector on the end. Now, there are an SSD that's not an M2 drive. I don't know how can I get that in there, but see, it has a special cutout on it. Now there's another one that has 2 cutouts on it that's not an M2 drive, and it's not as fast as this drive is. So what we have is a external drive. This one here is called pluggable, which is a really easy case. But this one is going to put this drive in. Now then you could use this as an external storage drive. Now even this could go into your shirt pocket, whereas this won't go in your shirt pocket. Now you have to have a cable with it. It comes with 2 different cables. One goes onto a C port, and one goes just into your standard USB port. I'll show you. See, this is one, and this is the other one. There you go. If you have a C port drive, a C port USB plug on your computer, you can use this cord and it will be faster than this one. This is a 3.1. Oops, this one's the 3.1, which is pretty fast, but it's not as fast as the C port. You know, they like to change things. So different ports, 3.1, the blue connector will actually go back to the black connector. It's just going to be slower. So USB 2, if you have an old laptop, it's going to be USB 2, so forth. So now, take a look at this though. This is pretty cool. So there's on the bottom, there's a little switch. And you hit the switch, and this thing slides out, just like that. That's all it is. There are some of these out there that you have to get out a screwdriver to take this off of this. Just saying. And then it has a little screw, and it's for people with little fingers. Not these big fingers. Little fingers. This one, let's see if I can get in there. See that little thing, that little rubber thingy? It's like a, I don't know how to describe it, but it's a little rubber thingy. And it just pulls away. So let me see if I can do this on camera. You want to line up your notches. So your notch, that notch has to line up with the notch here. So there you go. See that? It's like a little springboard for a pool. And then you're going to take it, putting a little bit of tension on that. You're going to grab that little pluggy thingy, and you're going to get it behind that little pluggy thingy. It's highly technical stuff. Little pluggy thingy. And the little pluggy thingy is going to fit into the little notch on the end. And see how it is? Just like that. And there you go. And then you put your cover back on. Like that. It locks in, won't fall out. And then you choose your cord. This is USB 3C to C, which I don't have a C port on my computer yet. And I may not. And it would be a good thing to add. And you get your cord. And then this is going to plug onto your computer. And you could use this as a storage drive. Although I think a Samsung drive for a storage drive is a bit overkill. But if you're using a lot of, if you're doing a lot of large files, transfers from one laptop to another, or one office to another, home office to work office, or remote office, you know, these things can be quite handy. And maybe you'll want the faster drive, but this drive here is very fast. This is 3,500 reads and writes, I believe, which is very fast, and you're not going to get that speed through a USB port. So it's kind of overkill. It's probably written on the box, but it's way too small for these old eyes. So we're going to use this to clone. I'm going to clone my drive on the computer to this drive. And that's what I'm going to show you. And then later, then I'm going to install this in, replace my present M2 drive in my computer, which is a slower drive, with this drive. Because I do a lot of film editing, and it'd be nice to have something fast. I am going to remove my other drive, just so I don't completely confuse myself. So hopefully, so that for those of you that are not in my room with me, there's a blue light on the front of that drive. Alrighty then, so we are going to start off. So over here with the cloning software, I'm going to click on cloning disk. Software package for. And I'm going to choose automatic. Cronus, which I am not endorsing in any way. And it's going to ask me for my source software program, which is going to be whatever you wish. So we are going to click on clone a disk. This one right here, which is Intel M2 drive, 1 terabyte. So we want to select. And then I'm going to hit next, and it's going to think for a little which while. Has all the programming that I have. Two Intel M2 drives. We are one is a 2 terabyte drive, and one is a 1 terabyte. 1 hour. So 1 terabyte is the one that has the operating system on it. I'm going to have to. And some documents. I'm going to select next, and we're going to wait. Do 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 do. Oh dear, What is the matter?
Welcome to Chase Card Services.
7 old ladies
Hello?
got stuck in the lavatory. They were there from Sunday till Saturday, and nobody knew they were there. Fa la la, fa la la, fa la la. Yep, it's thinking. So before you do a clone of your C drive, you wish to do a reboot of your computer and shut down any programs that you don't need to have operating, so that you can get up and walk away and not have Windows running, having your browser running.
So here we
or
are. We want to
other
select
stuff.
a destination.
It's a minimum program.
So what we
I
have here for choices
the Acronis True Image
is the
and
Samsung.
I
We have the
my
Seagate,
recording
which is
software.
what my storage
Right.
drive is for backups and so forth. The other NVM Intel, which is a 2 terabyte drive I use for storage. So we want this one right
so
here.
Now we are
It's
at
the only Samsung in the computer.
choosing the destination drive, and I wish to
Next.
go to my one. It's on a
This is why I like the
USB,
software. It's very,
and
very
it's the
forgiving
Samsung
and easy.
970 EVO
And it's
Plus,
come a long way.
which is this one
And their
right
tech
here,
support
1 terabyte.
are wonderful. They're the sweetest
And
guys.
then we're gonna hit next.
Well, I haven't talked to
Oh,
them
it's
yet.
gotta
but I know
tell
they're
me
there.
it's gonna
But,
delete everything on that
they are in
drive,
India,
which is what we
but
wish it
they're
to do.
very attentive
Start
to
fresh.
helping you out, which is, to me, it's just amazing when you get really
Start
good tech
fresh.
support.
So now
You
it's gonna
have-
think some
If
more.
you've been around the technical world, you've had really great tech
Oh,
support,
dear,
and you've had
what is the
really
matter?
bad tech
Oh, that was
support.
quicker. Now you don't
And
have to
you know
listen to me
the
sing.
difference.
Okay, so
Clear as
you
day.
want to take
So
a
here we
really
are.
good look
With our two
at
drives,
what it's going to do, because this is
And
the
then
time
we're
that
gonna
you
hit
don't want it,
proceed.
because you're going to wipe out your C drive if you chose the wrong one. Disk 2 is your target, and disk 10. Disk 10 is your target, and disk 2 is your source. Now this screen is telling you which drive is which. And as you can see, the sizes are
And off we
identical.
go. Now the best
So
thing
you're
to
going to
do
hope that you pick
is
the
get
right
up and
ones.
walk away. Go out and sit, have a cup of tea, have
you
a piece,
did.
have a
Otherwise,
nice pumpkin
you're gonna
ale,
wipe out
which I would love
your
to try,
drive,
even if it's
your
this
C
much,
drive.
which I think would
C.
probably would end up being.
And
Or,
off it
uh,
goes.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this place over in Lee. It's
And
down
there we go. And
by
it's
where
going to
the
give you a
post office
calculated
is. I'm trying
time
to think the
that
name
it's
of the
going to
place.
take
I can't
to
mention the
record,
name of the place.
and it's
going
going to be wrong
But
because it seems like it always
used
takes
to top in
longer.
they had the best
But
hot
it really
dog.
doesn't matter
But
if it
that's
takes
a little
longer
bar.
or not,
You probably
because
know what I'm talking
what
about.
you
If you're
want,
watching this from
it is to be a
CTSB, you
good
probably know
clone.
exactly where I'm talking about.
so you're going
It
to
would
walk
be nice to
away,
go in there
you're
and
gonna
have
sit out on the
Some
porch and
pumpkin ale.
enjoy the beautiful
but
day.
I won't
Or
because
if
one,
it's
I don't
dark
drink,
out,
and since I don't drink, I
like it
probably
is right
shouldn't have
now,
even a little
then
thimbleful and get in
Maybe
the car
go
and
watch
drive.
some
So
television. And I'm going to
now
just
the
let it
calculated
run, but when I
time in
put
this
it up
program
on
kinda
the
is a
video,
little
I'm
obscure.
going to cut back.
So it
some
might
of this
say 45 minutes
so
and say,
that
"Oh, I
you
can hang for
don't
45
sit here
minutes."
for the 4
And come back
hours
in an
like,
hour and it's
I
still
will
working.
be waiting for it.
The bottom line is, don't rush
Now
nothing.
the next step after this will
When
be
you're doing
to
computering,
install it
you
in your
don't
computer.
rush your computer. Your computer will do what
And,
it needs to do, and it'll do it when it needs to get it done. And that's all you need to know.
If it fails to boot, if you have
So
any
what we're going to
issues with it
do is
booting up,
just wait.
you can always
I'm
put
gonna,
the old drive back in
and we'll come back,
until you
and we'll
resolve.
let you know if it's
reason.
successful. that
Now, if you
program
have a
first
really-
going to be running to
If you have
record
a
it.
really old,
I'm trying out something new. I'm
version
trying a
of
screen
Windows,
capture
or
program. I won't
if
tell you.
you've, it's been a
what,
long time since
video
it's been
editor is
reloaded,
using
you
it.
might have to do a clean
And I've used it
install
in the past,
and restore all your new.
but I want to
drives
see if I
and
could
stuff.
use it for this video.
Some computers,
And
some really old computers that were maybe
yeah,
a
it's
Vista
going to
computer,
record
it
the
may
actions
not
on the
take
screen.
an SSD. You have
And
to
I'll
check
see
on
if
the
I can,
manufacturer
work
and
together.
see if they have drivers.
And then we'll have to see
for
how long.
an
I really
SSD,
only
an
wanted this to
updated
be
version of BIOS.
a short video.
That's another thing
no
that you
more
want
than
to
an
keep
hour.
in mind
It
is you
might
want
be
to make
longer.
sure that you have an updated BIOS on your computer. And if you don't really know how to do that and you're
Now it
afraid
says
to do
it's
that,
on the number
then
6
that's another reason
partition.
to find somebody who does.
So
And
you know, it
maybe you
might
have a
actually run
neighbor,
very quickly because it's a very
or
fast
a friend
drive.
that knows how to do this, and all
And
you gotta
even
do is
my
make
other
them
drives aren't
or
as
take 'em
fast
out
as this
to,
one. But
the No Name restaurant, or
it hasn't
I'm just throwing
calculated the
ideas out
time
there.
yet.
someplace where you can get or fried clams up
If
at,
I had a C port,
at the snack
USB-C
shack in,
on the computer,
Williamsburg. I'm just
it would go
suggesting
faster
that.
than that. But I'd have to.
Sometimes
add
food is, you can barter with food.
This particular cloning software you can use for multiple devices. You can clone your phone, your smartphone.
But this drive was successfully cloned. So now you can take this drive and use it as a backup drive, or you can put it into your computer and take out the C drive that's in there and boot up to this drive. And if it doesn't work, you might just try running the clone drive again, and maybe it's just picked up a glitch. If it never works, if you try it over and over again, you might have to do a clean load of software and then go from there.
But here we go. So this particular cloning process took like 4 hours. Hey, I had a nice nap and watched some great TV. You just kind of have to like walk away from your computer and yeah, and let it do its thing. As if you're still working on stuff on your computer, you could actually inadvertently mess up your cloning process. And all good things come with patience, as many of you know. So, until next time, the fairies speaks with you all the time. You just have to listen even when you're working on your computer. Ta-ta, da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da.
Okay, so this is the inside of my computer. It will be different than your computer. So, the first thing you do before you go any further, as a matter of fact, you should have done this before you took the cover off, is that you want to go down to that power supply and unplug your cable. And make sure that your cable is unplugged, because you don't want to be working on a computer that has power on it. Guarantee it's a good way to destroy things. I thought my power was off one day and I took something out and I took out my motherboard. So even those people that have been working on computers for years do stupid things. So don't be bent out of shape if you do something stupid, because it's part of the way it works. So this is the inside of the computer. So I'm just going to show you the parts of it. Way over here is the power supply. And the power supply provides all the necessary voltages in DC for the operation of the computer. This here is the CPU cooler. Now this is a nice cooler. This is a Mugen 5, and it's very quiet and it's very efficient. The red things down here, right here, that's the memory. So I have 4 sticks of 16s, which gives me 64 gigabytes of RAM. And the RAM is where your programs are going to run, generally speaking, and they'll go back and forth between your C drive and your RAM. But the more RAM, then the more you have for the programs to run on the RAM. However, you can't overdo it. So unless you have programs that are memory huggers or eaters, 64 is probably the most you want. 32 is probably a really good place to be. It's a good idea to use all 4 slots. You don't have to, but it's a good idea. So if you're not going to go over 32, for example, you only need 4 8s to make 32. It's best to have at least 2 slots of memory occupied. And you want to consult with your manual on where's the best place to put them if you're going to be doing 2 memory sticks. We got the rear cooling fan. You have to have that to keep your machine cool. Way over here is the video card or video graphics card. That's used for a lot of different things. I use it for video editing. The gaming cards. This is only a 6 gigabyte. Only 6. Only 6 gigabytes. Back in the day, and not too long ago, you could find computers out there now that are selling used that are only have like a half a gigabyte. And it's no wonder they even run. But you're getting a lot of buffering of videos, then you might want to increase your memory for your video card, which you can't upgrade memory on your video card. You have to buy a card with more memory on it, which is way over here is the DVD drive.